Brief history of the Monrovia Airport. As stated in the book by John Irwin, Monrovia Airport, alias Foothill Flying Field. It was in June of 1928 that Don Robertson and other aviation enthusiasts formed the Monrovia Airport Club and began looking for a place to put an airport. They found a natural landing field and leased it, at first for just 2 planes and a small hangar. In November 1930, the Monrovia Field, alias Foothill Flying Field, was approved for commercial operations. Monrovia's airport was in operations from 1928 until 1953. During this time frame, in 1939, the airport changed hands and was renamed the Monrovia Airport Incorporated. The airport, located on land leased from the Bradbury Estate Company, was bordered on the south by the original Santa Fe Railroad tracks, and on the north by Falling Leaf Road, which ran a block south of Route 66. Falling Leaf Road was subsequently renamed Cypress, while Route 66 is Huntington Drive. A current aerial photo shows the original boundaries of Monrovia Airport, which was just south of Huntington Drive, and went beyond the 210 and the Home Depot, all the way to the train tracks. To the west of the boundary is the Caltrans yard. In the 1980s, an individual made the decision to honor the airport by creating a mosaic mural on a structure located north of East Huntington Drive, not far above the original location of the airport. The mural is comprised of individual tiles depicting a plane in flight with the airport in the background. As a new tenant took possession of the location where the mural is located, the planning department of the city of Monrovia advised the new tenant that, despite any planned renovations, the city was adamant that the mural remain intact. To this day, the mural remains situated between the stores, Home Goods and Aldi. Remarkably, one detail about the airport's history isn't commonly known. That is, in 1937, McDonald brothers Richard and Maurice created their very first food stands adjacent to the airport. One was the Airdrome. It sold hamburgers, hot dogs, and beer. The other, the Giant Orange, sold oranges and orange juice. These stands remained at the airport until 1940 when the McDonald brothers cut the Airdrome in half and moved it to San Bernardino, California, and established the McDonald hamburger stand as it's known today. The Hollywood film industry utilized the airport in 4 full-length movies. The Fighting Pilot, 1935. "20,000 Men a Year," 1939, starring Randolph Scott.
There's a lot of vibration in that motor.
The Great Plane Robbery, 1940.
All right, come on out with your hands up or we let you have it.
Laurel and Hardy in the Big Noise, 1944.
I wish we had a parachute. I've got one. Look around and see if you can find one. What do I do now? Jump with it.
In between Oliver Hardy and Stan Laurel are Tom Blackburn and Bud Hansen, who ran the airport when the movie was made. Flight instructions were also provided at the airport. Monrovia resident and future Tuskegee Airman, Leroy Buster Chris, was one of those who learned to fly at the Monrovia Airport. A plaque commemorating Tuskegee Airman Leroy Chris is located at the intersection of Maple and Ivy in Monrovia. Tom Blackburn talks about his father, Al Blackburn, a memorable character who acquired the airport.
My dad was born in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1910, and in a fairly well-to-do family. And he was actually raised by a couple of maiden aunts. Long story there. But anyway, and was somewhat spoiled, I must say. He never had to actually work at a regular job in his whole life. And anyway, he came to California and he learned to fly. Actually, he learned to fly back east and had his pilot's license was I forget number 600 or something like that. He was one of the very first, very really back generation when there weren't very many people flying. But anyway, he eventually ended up in Monrovia and was flying out of Monrovia Airport. And as the story goes, and I've gotten this from Gary Bowen, apparently he got into his plane was being repaired there at the airport, and he got into some kind of a dispute with the guy who owned the airport at the time, and it ticked him off so much that he went to the bank and actually ended up buying the airport. So anyway, he ended up owning Monrovia Airport. This would be about, I don't remember, 38 or 39, something like that. Being my father and not wanting to be tied down particularly, he had a real facility for getting other people to sort of do the part that he didn't like. He acquired a partner, Bud Hanser, at the airport, and Bud was very much business oriented. Eventually, he became a real estate agent up in Ojai, but Bud sort of did all the business aspects of the airport. My dad was, quite involved with the airport, as I said before the war, and it was very active. They among other things, they used to advertise the airport through parachute jumps. Again, I've gotten this from Gary Bowen. The fellow who ended up doing the parachute jumps, the first time he did it, he had never been up in an airplane, and somehow was talked into doing a parachute jump at the airport, and became quite a well-known parachutist. And they would put on these shows every Sunday with a parachute jump and offering people rides, but for I don't know, relatively small fee in those days for a ride around, in an airplane around the airport. And he would also, you've seen pictures of the pulling a plane up Monrovia, the main drag in Monrovia during the parade. And anyway, I guess it was a very different period in aviation in those days. It was very freewheeling. My dad would tell stories about landing on the beach or landing on, the highway and going into a gas station to get gas, or flying out and landing on some of the dry lakes. These are things, of course, that the government won't allow you to do these days. And so the airport was basically shut down during the war years. And but my dad and Bud Hanser, his partner, worked out a deal with, I believe, the Navy to train pilots for either for the Navy or the Air Force, one of them was. Anyway, but they moved the operations, or much of the operation, to Prescott, Arizona. And for 2 or 3 years, Bud basically moved and lived there. My dad sort of commuted back and forth occasionally, typical. But that was a period during which the airport was really basically closed down. A couple other things that I remember now is they used to do breakfast flights on Sundays. They'd fly out, for example, to Palm Springs, a group of them. It'd be a whole, maybe 8 or 10 planes that would fly out a Sunday morning and have a brunch out in the desert. And I'll have to tell a good story. And I'm sure you probably remember this one. But during the Depression, times were really tough for everybody. I mean, it was really a tough period of time. Anyway, one industry that responded to this in a rather interesting way were the morticians. There was apparently a great deal of competition among the morticians because a lot of people had a small insurance policy for funeral and burial. What they would do, say a local mortician here in Monrovia would, be looking through the paper and hear about that somebody dying in, say, Bishop. So what he might very well do is hire my dad to fly up to Bishop. They would, he would get the contract, so to speak. And anyway, what they would do is they would wrap the body in a sheet and put it in the front cockpit of one of these biplanes and fly the body back here to LA. So, the mortician would make a little bit of money and, a little bit of old American get up and go. Right. And anyway, so I always thought that was a rather a little, kind of a peculiar little thing that they were doing in those days. That was during the Depression.
Flyers 3 is a home movie from about 1930 that depicts a man taking flight lessons at the airport. Flight lessons cost $1.50 a lesson. Sounds effects have been added. Photos of the airport. Special thanks to Gary Bowen for his vast collection of airport history. To learn more of Monrovia's history, including the airport, search the Monrovia's Legacy project on the internet.